The swagger, the glory, the game, and how we can elevate our own game with capability that takes us to another level and ground clearance that propels us even higher. The 3-row 2025 Kia Telluride X-Line all-wheel drive. Kia, official vehicle partner of the Golden State Warriors. Call 800-333-4KIA for details. Always drive safely. Limited inventory available.
The lights, the crowd, the moment. When the Warriors take the floor, greatness follows. At Cache Creek Casino Resort, every moment shines. Feel the rush as the reels spin. Breathe in our serene spa. Savor each bite in our award-winning steakhouse. And recharge in the comfort of our luxurious hotel. Cache Creek Casino Resort, proud partner of your Golden State Warriors. Please play responsibly.
What's up, Dub Nation? Do you want to get cash back on Warriors gear? All you have to do is sign up at Rakuten.com/Warriors, where you can earn 10% cash back in store and online at Warriors Shop. Once you're a member, shop your favorite stores like Fanatics and Ticketmaster and watch the cash back add up in your account. Rakuten is the most rewarding way for you to shop and maximize your savings. Join Rakuten for free today at Rakuten.com/Warriors or download the Rakuten app. That's RAKUTEN.
Thanks for showing up, Dub Nation. Nothing beats catching your Warriors live, and nobody knows that better than you. So next time you want to hit up a game, Ticketmaster's got your back. As the official ticket marketplace of the Warriors and the NBA, even if you're headed to the game last minute, Ticketmaster gets you to the game so you can experience all the sights, sounds, and styles in person. Keep putting that jersey collection to use and get Warriors tickets today at Ticketmaster. Get tickets at Ticketmaster.com/Warriors. See you courtside again soon, Dub Nation.
No matter what you're eating during today's Warriors game, sharing a jar of Mezzetta makes it better. Just pop open that red cap to give your favorite snacks something extra, like crunchy jalapenos on nachos or zesty peppercini on sandwiches and sliders.
Curry, pump fake, fly by, 3-ball, got it with the buzzer sounding!
You've been listening to Golden State Warriors basketball on the Warriors Radio Network. Presented by United Airlines. For tickets, visit Warriors.com or call 888-GSW-HOOP.
You wish you were here.
This Odyssey Sports broadcast was presented by ZipRecruiter. Looking to hire? Zip.
And down to a second, and there it is. There's the buzzer. 2.9 to go in the contest. Post will catch in the backcourt. He won't even shoot it. Ball game is over. Final score, Atlanta 124 at Golden State 111.
Yeah, there it is. That was Tim Roye, the voice of the Warriors, calling the final couple of seconds here at Chase Center as the Hawks knock off the Warriors 124-111, and it wasn't really that close. That final score is heavily induced by what happened in garbage time. The Warriors were down by as many as 25 points in the fourth quarter of this basketball game. They did fight back, and they got within 15 when the starters were still in. It was too little too late. That was at about like 4 minutes left in this basketball game, still down by 15. That's like right on the edge of nearly impossible to come back from. This was not a game that was in the balance in the final number of minutes in this fourth quarter. A run that ended the third and began the fourth was all it took for the Hawks to put this one out of reach, and the Warriors really disappointingly get blown out by the Hawks. Again, the final score is a 13-point margin, which is not good, by the way, and the Warriors were favored by 6 points entering the game by Vegas, so even if it's not a 20-plus point loss, it is a disappointment considering the Warriors were expected to win this game and have the talent and the guys to win this basketball game. They lose by 13, but again, it wasn't even as close as that final score suggests. This was one of the more disappointing efforts, I think, for the Warriors in quite a bit. They've had some disappointing results of late. You think about what happened in LA versus the Clippers. They lose that game by 103-102. There was the officiating fiasco down the stretch. And that was a frustrating result and a frustrating game. And the Warriors had really poor stretches of play in that game. But it wasn't a game where you just say, wow, the Warriors were thoroughly outclassed against a team where you feel like they should win. Like, they were outclassed by OKC. OKC's the best team in the country, in the world. And they haven't been as good of late, but they're still the class of the Western Conference, the class of the NBA. And that was also a game where you were down Steph, you were down Jimmy, you were down Draymond, and you're down others. You got to go back, I think, to the Toronto game in late December in Toronto when you lost that game in overtime because you just could not take care of the ball down the stretch. To find the last time where you kind of gave one away. But even that one, it's not as if the effort was so poor and you got thoroughly outclassed. You just kind of beat yourself in important moments. Now, that takes away from what Toronto did. Toronto played a hell of a basketball game there as well. But the point is, this was a game where it just kind of felt sleepy from the Warriors. And honestly, one of the things that I wrote down early in this game, and I guess before I even continue to get into it, I should introduce myself. Welcome. It's Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Randy with you here on 95.7 The Game, live from Chase Center, reacting to this 124-111 Warriors loss to the Atlanta Hawks. I am a fan of a lot of what the Hawks do and a big portion of their roster. I think the trade of Trae Young makes things more simple and straightforward for them. They have a lot of length. They have a lot of youth. They have a lot of athleticism. They make things difficult for opponents defensively. At least they did tonight for the Warriors. The Warriors scored just 111 points. They go 10 of 42 from deep. We'll talk more about shot creation and selection and quality of shots. We'll get into all of that. But this is by no means one of the worst teams in basketball. The Atlanta Hawks, are they a great basketball team? No. Are they a terrible basketball team? No. They're not close to a terrible basketball team. I would say, despite the fact that they are below 500 at 20-21, I would say they are above average, slightly above average. And I think the trade of Trae Young, again, kind of simplifies things for them, and I would not be shocked if we see them play better basketball the rest of the season than they have to this point of the season. And by the way, officially now, with and without Trae Young, they were 2-8 with Trae Young so far this season. With tonight's win, they're now 18-13 without him. So this is a Hawks team that is not by any means terrible. Now, does that excuse what happened tonight? No, of course not. This is a game that the Warriors felt like they should win. And coming into tonight, you're playing your best basketball of the season, 8-3 in your last 11. You're probably feeling as good about yourself as you have in a really long time, and you come out and you somewhat lay an egg, specifically during certain stretches of this game. Steph Curry spoke post-game and essentially said, I don't know if he was talking about this being tonight specifically, but he said you can play in the NBA, you can play 40 minutes of solid basketball, not necessarily dominating, but being absolutely in the game, maybe even being, slightly ahead in that 40-minute stretch, but you can play just two really bad stretches of 4 minutes, and you can lose the basketball game as a result. And that's what happened tonight. But if you want to weigh in, give me a call, shoot me a text, 888-957-9570. That is the number to call. It is also the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line, and I'm bringing up the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line as we speak right now. You can also join the conversation on our YouTube chat, youtube.com/957thegame, to join in there as the Warriors, they lose a rough one. They absolutely had every opportunity to make it a 9-3 stretch in the Warriors' last 12 games, but they lose this one here tonight. Again, 888-957-9570 to chime in. This is not a game where you point to all of the normal things that cost the Warriors in past basketball games. You can say turnovers. They committed 16 of them, 28 points off of turnovers for Atlanta. I did think this is kind of what Steph was talking about post-game. For decent stretches of this game, they were taking care of the basketball, and they were doing an all right job. Through 3 quarters, they had committed 11 turnovers, 5 turnovers in the fourth, and a lot of them were very early in this basketball game. At halftime, they had committed just 6 turnovers. Like, that's a number you would absolutely take. If I go up to Steve Kerr and I say, Steve, would you take 6 turnovers at half? And he would absolutely say, Are you seriously? Are you kidding me? Absolutely, I'd take 6 turnovers at a half. That's what the first half was. And the Warriors at halftime were down by 6. It was a lot of other things that were hurting the Warriors in this one. I thought for the most part in the first half they were creating relatively good looks. I know I've talked a lot in the past about Warriors coaches, I think specifically, the group that determines the game plan and the best course of action and how you want to attack defenses. And I've heard a lot of, whether it's Steve Kerr, whether it's Terry Stotts, or some others, talk about how, they're going to shoot 40 to 50 threes per game because they think they're a really good three-point shooting team. Their league average, shooting-wise, percentage-wise, they take the most threes in basketball. As a result of them taking the most threes in basketball, they make the most threes in basketball. But we're more interested in looking at the percentages as opposed to just the numbers of how many you make. Because, again, that's heavily influenced by the number that you take, and the Warriors take more than anybody else in basketball. And I have all season kind of railed against the fact that this is a really good three-point shooting team and that they should lean in to their three-point shooting and they should get up 40-plus threes every single night. Largely because it comes when, say, Draymond takes 6 a night, when Jimmy gets up 6 or 8 threes a night. Although he's been shooting at a good clip, it's just that he shoots such a low number that he's very selective, takes the ones that he feels comfortable about making, and that's why he has such a high percentage. It's nights where GP2 is taking 4 threes and making one of them, right, at most. Those are the kinds of, I think, discrepancies that count towards the Warriors' goal of getting up 40 threes a night, but that aren't really good shots. Now, tonight, and maybe you feel differently, you can let me know, 888-957-9570. Tonight, I thought for the most part, a lot of the threes the Warriors took were quality looks with quality shooters taking them. The Warriors put up 42 threes. They only made 10 of them. Like, that is as simple as this story tonight gets. You make your threes, and you have a chance to win this basketball game. You don't, and they do, they being the Hawks, and you lose this basketball game. Of the 42 threes, 11 were taken by Steph. He was 3 for 11. Some of those were like classic Steph, tough shots, impossible shots for anybody not named Steph, but ones where you're fine taking them if you're Steph. It takes a lot, I think, for me or anybody else to say, Steph, like, that's not a good 3, don't take that. Like, you're okay with almost every 3 that Steph Curry takes. It's a very unique situation when you say, Steph, like, peel back a little bit. I don't think that happened tonight. They're tough shots, but it's Steph Curry. You want him taking those kinds of shots. 5 of them were taken by Quentin Post. 5 more were taken by De'Anthony Melton. 4 were taken by Al Horford. 6 were taken by Jimmy Butler, and he actually made 2 of them. He was one of the few Warriors that made a couple of threes in this game tonight. You had for the vast majority of your threes, you had your best three-point shooters take them. Podziemski took 2, and he made 1 of them. Melton was 0 for 5 from deep tonight. Al Horford was 1 for 4 from deep tonight. Steph Curry was 3 for 11, right? Like the culprits we normally point to as those were bad looks and you should look elsewhere. For me specifically, the top of the list is Draymond Green, and there are some nights where he goes 0 for 6, 1 for 6. There's also nights where he goes 4 for 9. Tonight he goes 0 for 2 from deep. I thought it was a night where Draymond, with the ball in his hands, for the most part, made good decisions. He had 4 assists, only 1 turnover, and didn't take that many jumpers. 0 for 2. That's a fine number, in my opinion. GP2 did not take a 3 in this game. So I don't think tonight was the night where you say, okay, you created good looks, but let's dissect each of those good looks. Are those really good looks? Do we actually want the guys that are taking those open looks actually taking those shots? Tonight was not one of those nights. There have been plenty of those nights so far this season, but I don't think tonight was that kind of night. This was just a night where the Warriors could not get some of their good looks to fall, and Atlanta on the other end was using their length and their athleticism to drive into the paint and to kick out to open shooters. The three-point line tells the story of this basketball game. The Hawks shot 3 fewer threes. The Warriors put up 42. The Hawks put up 39. The Hawks made 5 more threes, though. So they made 5 more threes than the Warriors. They were a plus 15 on the three-point line on 3 fewer attempts. And it was Luke Kennard who really hurt the Warriors. And this is not a surprise. This was absolutely, I would guarantee you, part of the game plan. Luke Kennard is one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. And if memory serves, I'd have to go back and look. But if memory serves, I believe he's won at least one, if not a couple of three-point shooting titles in his career. He's, like, in terms of just open three-point shot, who do I want taking it? Luke Kennard is near the very top of the list. He's one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. And, yeah, he won consecutive three-point shooting titles. Not number of threes made, but based on percentage. In 2021-2022 with the Clippers, he shot 45% from deep. That was best in the NBA. In 2022-23, splitting between the Clippers and the Grizzlies, he shot 49.4% from deep. Best in the NBA. He's a career 44% three-point shooter. Luke Kennard hurt the Warriors. He made 6 threes. All of them came in the second half, and all 6 of them were part of the biggest run of this basketball game, which spanned the third and fourth quarters, and it was in total a 36-12 run. That's where this game changed. The Warriors were down by 1 with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. 3 minutes to go, down 1 with 6:19 to go in the third quarter. The Hawks closed on a 22-7 run to end that third. Kennard made 4 threes during that stretch. That 1-point lead balloons to a 16-point lead going into the fourth quarter. Then the first 3 minutes of the fourth, it's a 14-5 Atlanta run. More Luke Kennard threes in that run, and suddenly the lead balloons to 25. So in about a 9-minute stretch of basketball, a little more than 9 minutes of basketball, you go from down 1 to down 25. That was a 36-12 run. It was a case of the Warriors missing shots. That was also when the turnovers came. The Warriors committed 16 turnovers in this game. I counted, 6 during that stretch, 9 minutes plus of basketball. 6 turnovers during that stretch, and they almost always were leading to points. And to make matters worse, they were leading to threes, specifically Luke Kennard threes, and that's where this game ended. You get down 25 with about 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. It would take a miraculous effort for the Warriors to come back, and they just did not have that big run in them, which is understandable. When no one's expecting you to win once you get down that much. Luke Kennard was a backbreaker tonight for the Warriors. Not the only one, though. Why I said I like the Atlanta Hawks this year, it's specifically about 3 guys, but even more specifically, I can kind of zoom in on 2 on the offensive end. It's Jalen Johnson and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. If you remember Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's the cousin of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I remember that. You heard that storyline all postseason last year. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker was on the Timberwolves last year and had been for a number of years. And he's like your prototypical 3-and-D wing, and he got paid a handsome amount of money by the Hawks this offseason to leave to leave Minnesota and go to Atlanta. The price tag on Nickeil Alexander-Walker was too expensive for Minnesota, who's paying Randall and Anthony Edwards and others. That they said, all right, we're gonna let Nickeil Alexander-Walker walk. And he's now an Atlanta Hawk, and he's, again, a prototypical 3-and-D wing, the kind of player that the Warriors would absolutely love to have because he's a solid defender, he's athletic, he's young, he's long, and he can knock down a 3. He had 24 points on 18 shots tonight, 9 of 18 from the field, 3 for 7 from downtown. He really hurt the Warriors. And then it's Jalen Johnson, who, for my money, in terms of players 25 and younger in today's NBA, one of the best out of that group. He was in the same draft class as Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, the 20th overall pick out of Duke in that 2021 NBA draft class. Took a pretty big leap last year. It has turned that into like a gigantic leap this season. He's averaging top 21 in points per game and then top 10 in both rebounds and assists per game. Tonight was a ho-hum game by his standards, but still he was amazing. 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists, and did not turn the ball over once. Jalen Johnson is quickly ascending to be one of the better younger players in the NBA, and he did that on 9 of 16 shooting and just made 1 3, 1 of 4 from downtown, but he had the Atlanta offense in control basically the entire game. I think one of the bigger issues for the Warriors is, like, we can point to what happened defensively, right? They gave up 124 points. The Hawks shot 49% from the field. Shot 38 from deep. Again, they made 15 of their 39 threes. That's 38% from downtown. We can point to some of the issues defensively and leaving Luke Kennard kind of getting sucked up into the paint on drives and leaving the one guy specifically on this team that you cannot leave. Again, that's maybe just open three, knock it down, the best three-point shooter in the NBA, the one guy that you cannot leave, specifically once he makes a couple and he's feeling it, you cannot leave those guys. He's one of those guys that you cannot leave, and they lost him a handful of times. Some of it was also in the fast break. That's when the turnovers really hurt the Warriors. Again, I don't think the turnovers were like a game wide issue. Like it was not the thing where you say, oh, every moment, every big play in this game was because of turnovers. They just kind of all came in a couple of chunks of time, and it's when those runs came for Atlanta. But I think the bigger issue is what happens for the Warriors offensively during large stretches. So this was a game of runs for the Hawks. The Warriors got off to a 14-4 start to begin this game, and they were great defensively. Atlanta was 1 for 7 from the field to begin. They were not getting a ton of good looks, and the Warriors were contesting in the paint, and it was a 14-4 beginning for the Warriors. A lot of hard work went into that 14-4 beginning. It's not as if the Warriors were like shooting the ball incredibly well either. It was just the Warriors defense that was taking control of this game. And then things changed, and immediately all that work you just put in kind of changed things around. It was a 14-0 Atlanta run in the first quarter to erase that 14-4 Warriors start. So all that hard work to get up by 10, Atlanta goes on a 14-0 run, and now you're down 4. And you're not just back to square one, you're actually from behind. 4-point deficit in the first quarter, not that big of a deal. But you were just up 10, and that lead evaporates in the blink of an eye. Then what happens? Early in the second quarter, after the Warriors go on a 9-2 run to open up the quarter. Then what happens? That's an 11-2 Atlanta run in about 4 minutes of basketball. And then this is one of the moments that Steph Curry talked about post-game, end of the second quarter. Atlanta, they go on a 14-4 run to close the second quarter to go from down 4 to up 6 into the second half over the final about 2:45 of that first half. And then this is the run that we were talking about as well. Atlanta to close the third quarter. Once the Warriors got within 1, there was a Steph reverse layup with about 6:20, I think, to play in the third quarter. And Atlanta goes on a 22-7 run to close the third quarter to take that 16-point lead. And then they add on top of that to begin the fourth quarter with a 14-5 burst. And the 1-point Warrior deficit is now suddenly a 25-point deficit, and this game's over. So obviously during these stretches of play, right, 22-7 run over 6 minutes and 19 seconds of basketball, a 14-0 run over 3 minutes, a 14-4 run over 3 minutes, a 11-2 run over 4 minutes. Those all happened in this basketball game. And we're going to look at what happened defensively in those moments. Absolutely, we should. I think the bigger issue, though, for the Warriors isn't that. It's what happens on offense during these stretches of basketball. Now, this stat that I'm going to read to you, it's not 100% up to date, and I don't have a way myself in this short amount of time to update it. It comes courtesy of one of my favorite basketball follows on Twitter or on X, whatever you call it. I still call it Twitter personally. It's at Automatic NBA. If you are a basketball fan, I recommend you give it you give this account a follow. This was tweeted by this account at Automatic NBA last week. I believe it was in response to, which Warrior game was it? I believe it was in response to the Clippers loss after the Warriors. So it's about a week ago. That was last Monday was that Clippers loss. The Warriors had a stretch of basketball in that game where they did not score over a 4-minute stretch of basketball. This is NBA leaders in terms of the number of stretches of 4 minutes of basketball where an offense did not score. 4-minute scoring droughts this season. Again, this is as of 6 days ago, so it's not 100% accurate, but I guarantee the trend that I'm going to read off to you here is still absolutely 100% factually true. And I don't know if there was ever a 4-minute stretch where the Warriors were scoreless. There was definitely a 4-minute stretch where they did not make a field goal, but they had some free throws. But again, as of 6 days ago, the Warriors have the most 4-minute scoring droughts in the NBA. They have 15 of them. 15 4-minute scoring droughts this season. Okay, that number, we're almost halfway into the season. That doesn't sound like absolutely horrible. You need some more context. There's no team in the league that has 15 besides the Warriors. There's no team in the league that has 14 4-minute scoring droughts. There's no team that has 13 4-minute scoring droughts. The next best, or worst, I should say, is Indiana, who has 12 4-minute scoring droughts. Then Atlanta and Sacramento, both with 11. Then Utah with 10. Nobody has 9. The teams with 8 4-minute scoring droughts are the Pelicans, the Magic, the Suns. Like, do you get the trend here? The trend is these are all some of the worst basketball teams in the NBA, and specifically the worst offensive teams in the NBA, right? Like Phoenix is in there, in the bottom 10 in this statistic, but they're a pretty darn good defensive team. That's why they have a better record than the Warriors do currently, but the Warriors are far and away the team that consistently has the most 4-minute scoring droughts. The most 4-minute scoring droughts in the NBA. And that is a major, major issue. Again, I don't think there was any that adds to this tonight, but there were a number of moments where you say, wow, this is, over the last 5 minutes, they've only scored 2 points. And it happens in every single game, and it takes away from all the hard work that this team does when they put together a good stretch. Again, they began this game 14-4, and then 3 minutes later they're trailing because they give up a 14-0 run. And again, a lot of that is defense, but it's also they just go through some of these stretches offensively where they either aren't taking care of the ball, they can't make an open shot, they're not generating a good shot. I don't think that was really the case tonight. I think they had a harder time getting into the paint, and what do the numbers in the paint suggest? They actually had 54 points in the paint. I didn't think it was as consistent during, again, these stretches where they kind of just go cold offensively. So I think it's something to keep an eye on going forward. There's no doubt. 888-957-9570 if you want to weigh in. We're going to break here in a couple of minutes, but before we do, let's go out to the phone lines because Eric in Millbrae is standing by. What's up, Eric? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up with Mark Randy. What do you got?
Hey, what's up, man? That was just disgraceful. I know the Hawks are playing better ball. They're kind of feisty team. They got some up-and-coming talent, but still, you're the Warriors right now, especially the vibes after the Niners just handled that gutless Philly team. You're the Warriors. You're in no position to overlook anything. They're probably thinking we're playing great ball the last couple of weeks. We're one of the better home teams in the league. I'm thinking they probably had this as a win probably before they even took the court. And once again, they probably let their guards down. And what's going to happen if you do? And you're going to get beat because you're not in no position. You're not the Dynasty Dubs anymore. So you have to take every opponent as they're one of the top tier teams in the league. That's the way the Warriors, as Kerr mentioned earlier, we're not the championship form Dubs anymore. So if you're going to have a one-off, you're going to lose, and I don't care who it is. And, again, it bit them tonight. So I think they better get that damn wake-up call because next up coming here is going to be Portland, and Portland's playing some really good basketball, and that's probably going to be a team they're going to be battling for in that play-in stretch because I just from what I see, I just don't think the Warriors are going to be, and I hope I'm wrong, and believe me, I wish I'm wrong, a top 6 seed, because I just think the top 6 teams are just so stacked, and the Warriors have already put themselves in such a hole. And unless they go on some miraculous run, maybe they make some big trade or something like that. I just don't see it. So now you better get locked in, because Portland, for some reason, just continues to own them. So that's going to be their next up and coming. I think they play the Knicks coming. And so if you're the Warriors, you got your wake-up call. You better finish strong here on the rest of this homestand, because you're in no position really to overlook any talent. So and overlooking any player. Like Kennard was just slicing them up tonight. And as you mentioned, Alexander Walker. So I hope Kerr's got to really lock in on these guys and tell them to get the hell up in these stretches here when the 3 ball's not going. Attack the rim, go to the paint, get to the line. That's why Jimmy Butler, who's one of the most efficient guys getting the line, has got to be. So that's just when your 3 ball's not happening, that's going to happen. And that's, as you astutely mentioned, if you're a 3 ball happy team and your shot's not going, and especially from Curry, that's going to happen in stretches, and that's why the Warriors tend to go in these droughts. So hopefully they regroup and finish strong in the rest of this homestand, starting against Tuesday night against a Portland team that's dominated them for some reason. So we'll see. They've been playing great ball, but tonight was a major letdown. Hopefully that doesn't happen the rest of this homestand. Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Eric. And yeah, you're right. It's Portland up next on Tuesday. By the way, it's another Peacock game, which means it's an 8 o'clock game. So an 8 o'clock game on Tuesday. I'll be with you for Warriors Live and Warriors Wrap-Up. It'll be a late night here on 95.7 The Game, but that's coming up next for the Warriors. Then the Knicks, as Eric mentioned, in town on Thursday, back to the normal 7 o'clock start time. Then you get Warriors basketball on Saturday versus Charlotte, which is unfortunate because Saturday is also going to be the day the Niners play the Seahawks in Seattle after that epic Niner win tonight. We'll talk more about that, of course, all week here on 95.7 The Game. For now, though, it's time for a break. When we come back, we'll hear some post-game sounds. Steve Kerr has spoken. Steph Curry has spoken. We'll hear from those guys, a whole lot more, plus more time for your calls and your texts at 888-957-9570 as the Dubs fall 124-111. A really, really disappointing loss to a young, not terrible basketball team in Atlanta, an athletic, long, lanky team, and the Warriors, they just could not hang in this one. They fall 124-111. Time for a break. Mark Randy with you live from Chase Center. Back with more Warriors Wrap-Up next on 95.7 The Game.
Straight Talk presents The Math of More. Here's how it works. When you say yes to more with Straight Talk, you're left with more for all the other good stuff. So getting an unlimited plan starting at just $25 a month equals more savings for your family's weekend adventures. And with a network covered by Verizon, you can share more from wherever you go. It's simple math, really. More equals more with Straight Talk. Available at straighttalk.com and Walmart. Taxes and fees apply. The $25 plan requires a compatible unlocked device and a new line of service. Additional terms apply.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Mark?
I've been doing home remodeling for 30 plus years, but the economy crashed. I wound up losing my home, losing my job, and on top of that, owing the IRS a ton of money. I owed the IRS $114,000. It really, truly was the worst part of my life.
Then Mark found Tax Relief Advocates.
On news radio, I heard about TRA, and I thought, what's the worst that could happen? So I picked up the phone and I called them. When it was all said and done, TRA settled my $114,000 debt for $100, and I'm telling you, I was ecstatic. Could not believe it. Would recommend TRA to anyone.
If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Mark did and call TRA for a consultation.
But TRA did. They gave me a second chance, and I'm forever grateful.
Visit TRA.com or call 800-491-9914. 800-491-9914. That's 800-491-9914.
Now it's time for the closer of the week. Presented by LiftMaster and RNS Doors. Turn your garage into the envy of the neighborhood. Visit rnsdoors.com.
This week's closer comes from Valerie from Fremont. Upon calling RNS, the receptionist was able to schedule a service technician for the next day. Edgar showed up in a timely manner, assessed the problem, had all the parts and new openers with him.
Recently, my garage door opener was not working. I was in need of a closer. I was put in touch with RNS Doors, and they hooked me up with a brand new garage door opener from LiftMaster. With LiftMaster's MyQ connectivity, my garage door opener can be controlled right from my smartphone. You'll know when it's door or gate has been left open and can close it with a tap, no matter where I am. Be one of the first 10 callers and receive 20% off a LiftMaster garage door opener.
Call 1-800-FIX-A-DOOR. That's 800-FIX-A-DOOR. Or visit rsdoors.com. R&S Doors. Look for the red truck.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Paid for by Reliable Legal Marketing.
Attention California residents. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, including chronic lymphocytic leukemia, a common subtype, is one of the most common cancers in the United States. If you or loved one was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or chronic lymphocytic leukemia and were exposed to Roundup weed killer, you could be entitled to cash compensation. Bayer, the owner of Roundup, has agreed to pay more than $10 billion to cancer victims linked to the weed killer. Call our Weed Killer Cancer Hotline now to see if you're entitled to cash compensation. If you or someone you love has been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or chronic lymphocytic leukemia and were exposed to Roundup, call now. Our attorneys have the experience and specialize in fighting for everyday people to get the compensation you deserve. If you or a loved one was diagnosed, even if a loved one has passed away, call 800-341-4933 now. But hurry, time is limited. Call 800-341-4933. 800-341-4933.
Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome. Will Trial Law, LLC, 1001 Bannock Street, Denver, Colorado, 80204.
Never have I ever called my sister from the finish line of my first marathon. Hello? You won't believe where I am. Are you running? Mile 26. I'm gonna make it.
Switch to T-Mobile's 55 Plus plan and get iPhone 16e with its advanced camera system on us. Plus, 2 lines for just $30 a line.
Guys, I can't believe it.
I knew you could do it, babe.
That was amazing. Mom, how do you feel? I feel great. I can't feel my feet. Let's take a picture, and then you may carry me to the car.
Share every stride, every mile, every memory on America's best network. Switch to T-Mobile's 55 Plus plan and get iPhone 16e on us and 2 lines for just $30 a line.
With 24 monthly bill credits and 2 eligible port-ins on Essentials 55 Plus for well-qualified customers with AutoPay plus taxes, fees, and $35 device connection charge. Credits end and balance due if you pay off early or cancel. Contact us. Finance agreement 128 gigabytes, $599.99 required. Best mobile network in the U.S. based on analysis by Ookla of Speed Test Intelligence data 1H 2025. Visit T-Mobile.com.
Guys, if you want the greatest night of your life, I mean your best night ever, then you gotta hear this. There's a new ED pill out, and it's from the makers of Viagra. It's their first new ED pill in over 20 years. This new super pill is called Viagra AGV, and it's unbelievable. It works super fast in only 11 minutes and lasts up to 14 hours thanks to its new vasodynamic delivery system. Plus, it's FDA approved and safe. There has never been any ED pill like it. It's unreal what it does to you. In testing, Viagra AGV crushed every other ED pill. It destroyed them all. And now, 9 out of 10 urologists are recommending Viagra AGV over any other ED pill. Every man alive needs to try this new Viagra AGV super pill at least once. Then you'll know why men are going crazy over it. So if you want to have the most incredible night of your life, you can't miss this. Go to scoreblue.com and try it while supplies last. That's scoreblue.com.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco on Odyssey Sports Station and the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries. Always live on the free Odyssey app and now coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios.
C.J. McCollum backs up Melton, shoots over, missed it. Curry with a rebound. Baseball pass to Melton. He catches, turns, and fires. Missed a 3. Payton offensive rebound. Out to half court to Curry. Ball being thrown all over the gym. Now Curry off a screen. 3-ball up. It's good! Draymond Green just wiped out Alexander Walker on a screen. Curry then tripped over Alexander Walker. It's 112-95.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Welcome back. Mark Randy with you here from Chase Center, reacting to this 124-111 Warriors loss to the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, that highlight you just heard, a Steph 3 called by the great Tim Roy here on 95.7 The Game. That was a late Warriors push. They were down 25 in the fourth. They got back within 15, but there were still like 4.5-ish minutes left. Really, really hard to see them coming back from down 15 at that point. It was far too little and far too late. They lose this game 124-111, and really that final score I don't think does justice the way the Hawks played. Again, they were up by 25 when these teams were playing strength on strength, as in their best players. It was a 25-point deficit. You look at some of the plus-minuses in this game, it was pretty darn ugly for the Warriors. The starters was not terrible, a game in which you lose by 13, and it was a whole lot worse than 13 when the starters got pulled. Steph was a -9 in 32.5 minutes. Draymond a -7 in his about 29 minutes. Moses Moody a -6 in nearly 17 minutes. Jimmy Butler played almost 34 minutes, was a -5, not terrible. Quentin Post played 17.5 and was even in his minutes, was 3 for 6 from the field, 2 of 5 from downtown. But you look at the bench. DeAnthony Melton was a +18, which is hard to believe in a game in which you lose by 13 points. That means when he was on the bench, the Warriors were outscored by 31 points, which is an absurd number in a single basketball game. But Podziemski in 16.5 minutes, the Warriors were outscored by 21 points. By far the Warriors' worst number of the day. Guy Santos is normally a positive in the plus-minus. He was a -11 in 16 minutes. Al Horford a -10 in 16 minutes. It was a lot of ugly numbers for the Warriors in that regard today, and they lose this game 124-111. We're going to get to Steve Kerr coming up in just a little bit, and if you want to weigh in, you've got about 25 more minutes to do so here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game if you want to weigh in. 888-957-9570. Mark Randy with you. Steve Kerr coming up in just a sec. But before that, the Warriors have an issue where, again, and I see it, that just came in on the YouTube chat, youtube.com/957thegame. Tall Asian Mike wrote, Warriors 24% from 3. It's a one-trick pony. Can't win games when that bad shooting the 3. And you're absolutely right. They need their threes to fall. And when they're not, they are – I know what you mean when you say one-trick pony, Tall Asian Mike, because they don't or they put a lot of their eggs in the three-point basket. I think we can put it that way. Now, they did win this game in terms of points in the paint. They outscored the Hawks 54-46 points in the paint. The difference is the Hawks were +15 from the three-point line. So the Warriors are not good enough, I think, in the other areas to make up for an off-shooting night. And maybe that's not even the right way to put it either. They don't have enough opportunities to make up for a poor shooting night from downtown, because they shoot so many threes. And if you're the Warriors, you're kind of stuck in a dilemma if you're in a game where you're shooting poorly, and all season long your best strategy has been take a lot of threes. Again, Terry Stotts last week, after that game in L.A. versus the Clippers, where he took the post-game presser responsibility from Steve Kerr, because Steve Kerr was so upset at the officials that if Kerr spoke that soon after the game, he was probably going to get fined. So Terry Stotts spoke. And Terry Stotts, I believe what he said was, ideally we want to shoot somewhere between 40 and 50 threes every night. And if you're the Warriors, and say you get 25 shots in from deep out of your ideally like 40 to 50 threes a night, and you've only made, say, 5 of those 25, is your best course of action to continue shooting all those threes? Or is your best course of action to say, you know what, we're going to move on from that and we're going to try to get into the paint as much as we possibly can? The Warriors have had games where they have said, you know what, we're going to kind of move off of the three-point line a little bit and try to get inside a little bit more. And frankly, it has worked. Maybe better than I would have expected. I do think they are better at scoring in the paint than a lot of people give them credit for, because they are so small. I think a lot of people assume that they can't score inside. But when you have Steph and you have another good shooter in Melton, he was not good tonight, but his last 2 games were great shooting the basketball from downtown. When you have Quentin Post, who can space the floor, and when you have Al Horford, who of late has been shooting the ball a whole lot better, it's not as if you have no shooters out there at any time. You have some floor spacers, and with Steph, you have the ultimate trump card who can control opposing defenses like no other force in the NBA. You can get into the paint, and then when you get into the paint, you can draw defenses, and you can drop it off to a cutting GP2 for a dunk, right? And that happened a handful of times tonight. Not just GP2, but others. But when the threes aren't falling, the Warriors tend to, more often than not, continue to shoot the threes. And other than Steph and Jimmy, there's not a lot of other players who can create their own shot, whether it is a 3 or a 2. So if the created shots that Steph and Jimmy are creating for the others are not falling, then you're kind of at a loss, and there's not a whole lot they can do offensively. Like tonight, in this game, Steph and Jimmy combined for 61 points. They were 21 for 40 from the field, so just a tick above 500, but they combined for 61 points on, pretty good efficiency. 61 points on 40 attempts, you will take that. That's pretty darn good efficiency. Oddly, they were actually combined pretty poor from deep. They were a combined 5 for 17 from downtown. That's sub 33%. Not a number that you want those two to be at combined, but still 61 combined points on 40 field goal attempts. That's a number that you can absolutely live with. In fact, if you get that every night, you're going to win most of your basketball games. The issue was the rest of the team, everybody else, combined for 50 points on 21 of 50 shooting. 21 of 50, that's about 40% from the field. So Steph and Jimmy combined for 60 on 50% shooting. The rest of the team, 50 total points on about 40% from the field. Not 40% from deep, 40% from the field. It's just simply not good enough. Not good enough from the rest of the team. And it was, again, by my estimation, it's not as if these were a lot of terrible shots. Like in the Clippers game, which I talked about, when it was Draymond shooting a lot of threes, GP2 shooting some threes, even Moses Moody shooting some threes, who hasn't given you, I think, a ton of reason to be confident in his shot of late. You have part of you that says, well, those are open shots because the defense is willing to give those up. I don't think that was the case tonight. The defense is not willing to give up Steph threes. He missed 8 of the 11 that he took. They're not willing to give up Al Horford threes. They're not willing to give up Quentin Post threes. They're not willing to give up Melton threes. Now, would they rather those than Steph? Yes, of course. But in a vacuum, it's not as if they are saying we're not defending DeAnthony Melton out there. We're fine giving him a 3. No, he just missed his today. He was 0 for 5, and that happens. But when that happens, the Warriors don't have enough from the others to be able to survive an off-shooting night like that. And again, I don't think tonight's the best night to say, well, they are actually not a very good three-point shooting team, because I think a lot of the threes that they took were good looks, and they just weren't making them. But there are plenty of nights where the threes are being taken by the wrong guys, I think is the best way to put it. Tonight, in my opinion, was not one of those nights. Steve Kerr coming up in just a minute here on Warriors Wrap-Up. But first, let's go to Jonathan, who was at the game tonight here at Chase Center. Jonathan, what's up? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Randy with you. What do you got?
Hey, Mark. I'm frustrated.
Yep.
This was the game I needed them to win. And I'm seeing a lot of the old mistakes that November and December I lucked out on that finally caught up with them. I saw the turnovers. I saw the missed shots. I saw missed free throws, you name it. And I'm thinking 1 week ahead now, because getting this one would have felt really good with what I know is coming with Miami. The thing about the Warriors, at least this version of the Warriors is, and especially with an Eric Spoelstra team, is as long as you force them into turnovers and you play tight defense, you have a really good chance. And tonight proved that. What scares me, especially after what I just saw tonight, because they're either going to get their game back or they're not, is we have not seen yet since the trade a really good game from Jimmy against the Heat. And I know he's due, especially since he didn't play in their trip to South Florida. So I feel like right now, after what I just saw, this game could go either way. And it's gotten me very concerned, in addition to my concern about the Warriors' chances going forward. But tonight was just the same old, and I wondered, I started so well. When is it going to come back to bite me? And it did tonight. So now I got a week to prepare, and I'm going to do my usual routine, watch the old prolonged championship DVDs of Shaq and Wade and LeBron, and watch the Warriors and study them. But I I don't know how to feel, because if they play like they did tonight, I've got a chance. But we know that they're running out of time and running out of home games to get going. I'm hoping they get either the next 3 or 2 out of the next 3, and then we'll see what happens. But I know it's going to be tougher with the Knicks, and they've struggled with Portland too. But of all the games for them to lose, they had to lose on Jewish Heritage Night in such an ugly way right before I'm about to see the Heat. So
yeah, Jonathan, I appreciate the call. Yeah, I mean tonight was a rough loss. I mean, this is a game that I think most of you and myself included, I've talked about it a lot, circled as a game that they should probably win. And this is one of the most, I think, to this point of the season, the most important stretch of basketball for the Warriors. Again, to this point of the year. And they are now in this 11-game stretch where you have 10 games at home, 1 game on the road in LA, so all 11 in California. They're 3-3 in the first 6 games of this 11-game stretch. And I had said 8-3 should be the target, which means you now need to go 5-0 the rest of the way, which would mean a win versus Portland. You're 0-3 versus them so far this year. A win versus New York, one of the best teams in the East. A win versus Charlotte. You know, Charlotte's a very bad basketball team. That one's no problem. You would think, but you never know. A win versus Miami, which, as Jonathan is talking about, is never easy. It doesn't matter who's on that Miami team. They're never an easy team to beat. And then on back-to-back, a win versus Toronto, a team you've already lost to this year. So there's a lot of that would be a nice win mixed in there. Doesn't mean they can't go 5-0, but it seems increasingly unlikely for that to happen, which means, at least based on what I expected, or maybe not expected, but what I set out for the Warriors' goal to be in this 11-game stretch, they're not going to reach that goal. It's not impossible. They can go 5-0 and be 8-3 in this 11-game stretch, but it's going to take, really nice wins and really good play. And they cannot have stretches of basketball like they had tonight where they just ran out of the gym for a 4 or 5 minute stretch. And that's why they lost tonight. Final score 124-111. All right, let's hear from Steve Kerr. We've got about 10 more minutes with you, so if you want to weigh in, give me a call, and we'll go to you right when we wrap up with Steve Kerr. But Steve Kerr postgame at the podium talking to the media after his team falls 124-111. Dubs now back to 2 games over 500 at 21-19. Here's Coach Kerr postgame after this one, after the Warriors fall to the Hawks. Here's Steve Kerr.
Steph basically said he felt like y'all might have played like 40 good minutes, but 8 bad minutes. What was the trouble, do you feel like, tonight?
I think it was all about Atlanta. They just played a great game. We couldn't turn them over. They shot it lights out, 32 assists, 7 turnovers. I didn't think we played poorly. I didn't think we played that well. Obviously, 10 for 42. We needed to shoot better, but more than anything, they just played a great game and deserved it.
Steve, young, long, athletic team from the Hawks. Blazers kind of built similarly. You guys obviously have had some struggles against them this year. What will be the quickest switch for next game?
Well, I'm pleased with the process. It didn't feel like a high turnover game. I mean, obviously we ended up with 16, and I think we had 3 offensive fouls. It was not a loose game on our part, and not a good shooting night. So we've just got to stick with what we've been doing the last few weeks. Keep it simple, take care of the ball, and obviously knock down some shots. That always helps. But again, I don't think we were that bad. I thought it was more just they played a great game.
You mentioned the turnovers. You think you had 5 in the third quarter. They had gone that big run. Just what did you see there the second half of that third quarter?
Well, they're long and athletic. They did a really good job defensively. They did a lot of switching. We got into a couple late clock situations where they, kind of jumbled us up with their switching, and then we turned it over. So that stretch was a killer for sure. But again, these nights happen. There's talent all over the league. These guys are young and athletic and long, and they can give you a lot of trouble.
What's your philosophy on how long to keep your starters in a down game?
It was a tough one tonight. I mean, I was ready to take our guys out with probably 6 minutes left. I think they were up like 23 or something, and I was ready to pull the guys, but we made a little bit of a run, and it's a little bit of a feel thing with this group. with Jimmy, Dre, Steph. I'll pull him a little earlier than I would have, 6-7 years ago with younger legs. So you just have to feel it. I felt like we needed to give it one more chance there after we fell behind by whatever it was, early fourth, and we did. We made a little bit of a run, so I kept him out there for a few more minutes.
You mentioned the shooting. You get 30 from Jimmy, you get 30 from Steph. The role players don't really add in as much. What sort of was going on with that?
It's a basketball game. Last game, the bench had like 60-something points, so every game's different. We needed some shots to go in. We needed a couple guys to get hot. It didn't happen, and it's the way it goes.
Luke Kennard scored a season-high 22 points tonight, scored all 4 of their threes in that third quarter. A lot of them kind of right in front of your guys' bench. Was there any KYP issues there, or was it just him kind of catching fire?
I think 2 of them were off turnovers, corner threes. They have a lot of playmaking with Jalen Johnson and Daniels and Alexander Walker. So they can break you down from multiple spots. And so they broke our defense down. Okongwu hit a couple threes from the top. Kennard got going. So, like I said, they played a great game.
Steve, specific to Brandon and Moses, they've had some really high points this year. They've also struggled at times. Why do you think the consistency night to night has eluded them?
Well, it's part of being in this league is, advancing. I've always felt like, the great players play really well like 4 out of every 5 nights, and role players, it's kind of 2 out of every 4. There's a reason the guys make all the money. They're good almost every night. And for most of the league, guys like me when I played, it's kind of an every other night type thing. And if you can get to, 4 out of 5, you're going to make a whole lot of money, and you're going to become one of those guys. But that's all. It's all this league is. The great players can do it every night. The younger players are trying to develop that consistency. Thanks, you guys.
All right, that's Steve Kerr post-game after the Warriors fall to the Hawks. Final score 124-111. Steve Kerr, very complimentary of the Hawks. I think he's right. I mean, they did play a really good game. The numbers that he read were the 33 assists to he said 7 turnovers. They also have 2 team turnovers. Regardless, 33 assists, 9 turnovers. That's still really good as well. They made a lot of shots. They made their open shots, and they just put together a bunch of runs. I don't think, again, I think I agree for the most part with Steve that this wasn't just a game where the Warriors played terrible, and he also said what I kind of said earlier, which was I was kind of surprised to look down at the end of this game and see 16 turnovers because it didn't feel like turnovers were a gigantic issue. There was like one stretch at the end of the third and then a couple at the beginning of the fourth, and I know that that's like the key moment in this game, and it's the stretch of basketball where the Hawks went on a 36-12 run, but it's not as if it was like fully across the entire 48 minutes of this game, consistently turnovers were an issue. They were really kind of hyper-focused into just a couple of areas of this game. I mean, the Warriors in the first half, 6 turnovers. They had 10 in the second half. You commit 16, that's not a back-breaking amount. The Warriors can win games with 16 turnovers. The issue was they didn't force others on the other end, and the Hawks were plus 17 in the points off of turnovers category. But like, if you were to ask Steve Kerr what's like the right amount of turnovers, obviously he would like to say 0 or just a couple. But like, if he's given you like a real answer, talking about like what's realistic consistently, what number do you want the turnovers to be at, he would probably say about 14 a game. So 16's not like terribly far off of that. It just they kind of were bunched together, and they kept contributing to these Hawks runs that have eventually ended the basketball game. Again, tonight for the Hawks, a 14-0 run, an 11-2 run, a 14-4 run, a 22-7 run, and a 14-5 run. And those last two, the 22-7 and the 14-5, were only separated by the end of the third quarter. So again, combined, that's a 36-12 run spanning the third and fourth quarters. You just can't have stretches of basketball like that and expect to win any basketball games. You can't go dormant offensively for 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time, and you can't have stretches where you're giving up open three after open three after open three. Now, I'll defend the defense for a sec, because again, in those moments, as Steve Kerr said, a handful of those Luke Kennard threes were off of turnovers where the defense is scrambling and can't get back in time. That's not the defense's fault. That's the offense's fault. You cannot commit those turnovers because you're going to give up good looks on the other end. And that's why points off of turnovers were 28-11 in favor of the Hawks. You're not going to win basketball games when that's the points off of turnovers battle. So, Hawks made their shots. They got open looks. The Warriors also got open looks. They just didn't make theirs. Now, you can say, well, you trust the Hawks shooters more than most of the Warriors, and you very well, might have a fair point there. But the Warriors, I thought, got a lot of decent looks. They just didn't make them. But again, as we had a couple of commenters say earlier, the Warriors are a team where if their shots from the outside are not falling, it is really very, very difficult for them to win these basketball games. So we'll see where the Warriors go from here. Coming up next, they've got the Portland Trailblazers. They're in town on Tuesday. As I mentioned, that's an 8 o'clock tip-off. It's an NBC and a Peacock game, 8 o'clock tip-off, which means Warriors Live begins at 7 on Tuesday. I've got you covered for Warriors Live, and I'll be here as well late into the night and maybe into Wednesday morning with an 8 o'clock start time. Maybe that means Warriors wraps up around midnight. We'll find out coming up on Tuesday. That's what's coming up on Tuesday. The Warriors then host the Knicks, led by Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart and that whole squad. That's coming up on Thursday at 7. Charlotte is in town on Saturday, the 17th of January. 6 days from now. It's unfortunate timing for these schedules because that's also when the 49ers are going to play the Seahawks in Seattle. We'll know the official times tomorrow. I would imagine the Niners are going to play the Seahawks in the evening game, which means Niners and Seahawks will kind of overlap with Warriors and Hornets. We'll tell you what that means from a programming standpoint once that time is official. We'll find it out tomorrow. We'll let you know, of course, on 95.7 The Game. Then Monday, Miami is in town, and after that, the doubleheader with Toronto, and that closes out this 8-game homestand and the stretch of 11 games all in the state of California, 10 of those games at home. And in order to take advantage of this stretch, the Warriors, they got to win. They really got to win a lot of these next 5. 5-0 would get them to my goal prediction, not even a prediction, my goal of 8-3 in this 11-game stretch. You can't go worse than 4-1 in this stretch, I think, if you're serious about getting yourself out of the 8 spot and into the top 6 in the Western Conference. It's going to be tough for the Warriors to do that. There's still a lot of basketball left, of course, but these next 5 games I think are really, really important. And with the back-to-back mixed in there towards the end, who knows what the injury report will look like for that Tuesday game against Toronto to end this homestand. Maybe the Warriors have to win the first 4, and maybe they feel better about potentially holding some guys out in that game against Toronto on Tuesday. We'll see how it all plays out. That's a conversation for a week from now. All I know right now is the Warriors, they lose one. They felt like they probably could have won, or they should have won coming into the game. And they're now back down to 2 games above 500 at 21-19. All right, that'll do it for Warriors Wrap-Up tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Mark Randy, signing off. Again, we're back on Tuesday for Warriors versus Blazers. Blazers 3-0 versus the Warriors this year, so that's going to be a big opportunity for the Warriors to get a little payback on the Blazers. Coming up tomorrow, though, here on 95.7 The Game, probably not a ton of Warrior talk because the Niners knocked off the Eagles in Philly. Join us bright and early tomorrow, 6 a.m. for the morning roast. The two Joes talking Niners win in Philly. Then Steiny and Goo from 10 to 2 and Willard and Dibbs from 2 to 6. All right, that'll do it for Warriors Wrap-Up tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Mark Randy, signing off. Have a great rest of your Sunday evening, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday with the Blazers in town right here on 95.7 The Game.
Graded out as one of the top 3 in the league. They weren't able to come up with a key stop when they needed it most. I mean, Reed Blankenship gets caught cheating, looking in the backfield on the trick play. Credit Kyle Shanahan for calling that at the juncture of the game when he did. But look, the Eagles